Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest, it's my honor to present you today's guest, which is Liza Roeser. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Adi. How are you today? I just heard what you're like, who's sponsoring this? And it's almost like, oh, can I hire you? Because you can never have enough processes.
That's exactly right. And I am Lisa, I'm so excited to interview you today because your industry, I mean, your business, it's just beautiful. It's just beauty. You know, it's all about flowers. I love flowers. So you are the founder of FiftyFlowers.
Yeah.
And you have an amazing story. You're a very successful entrepreneur, but there is such a purpose behind that story that I'm actually I can read your bio, but I think I would love for you to actually tell us that story, because I think it's touching. I mean, if you go to your website, you definitely can see the story there as well, but tell us how it all started.
Well, you know, it's interesting because we're revamping the website, speaking of processes, to tell the story even a little bit more in depth, because, you know, I am a natural born trailblazing entrepreneur. Didn't even know it. I was 9 years old trying to mimic Avon and make perfume and, you know, sell it door to door. And I ended up going to Texas A&M and I studied recreation park and tourism science, not business. I focused on marketing. And this was back in the 90s. I graduated in 92 and went down to Ecuador in the Peace Corps. And I worked in small business and I fell in love with the country. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I didn't want to come back to the States yet. And I told a friend of mine and said, hey, you know what? I really would like to get a job. And she said, oh, take mine. I'm going to work at the bank and they need a head accountant. I didn't study accounting, especially in a third world developing country accounting. However, as you know, one of my mottos is #never know. So, okay, I'll do it. And that's how I found myself in the flower industry. This was back in, 28 years ago in Quito, Ecuador. There weren't many other, gringos, is what they call United States people down there.
White people, yes.
Exactly. Down in South America. And so it just naturally doors opened up that just led to, this path of becoming a flower expert, then realizing that I had clients that wanted me to sell not only from one farm, but a collective of farms. So I learned how to, do it all on my own. Then I was in an industry that was really antiquated. In fact, it's still antiquated. We're still using fax machines in the floral industry. And I know a lot of people listening might be like, what is a fax machine? Well, we're still using them. And I fell in love with the internet. And in 2000, I started on Netscape programming FiftyFlowers. And that was how this whole journey, this business was created. And it was created, I love to say, a lot of sweat, blood, sweat, and wine is how this business has been created. And it's failing forward, like all of us in businesses. We all have, things are supposed to work out this way, but all of a sudden there's a curve. And if we don't have a process around that curve and we don't think of what could happen to have that speed bump happen, then all of a sudden you're reinventing yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's an amazing story. So then you came back to the States, right?
Yes. about, gracious, I've been back in the States now since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've been in the States. So currently, right now, I am headquartered in Boise, Idaho, and Quito, Ecuador. I still have, I have one lady on my staff who's been there since day one. And she's funny. She's really funny because I still have my business, my B2B business. It's called Farm Exports. And it's a 7-figure business. We sell direct from the farm to importers all over the world. And you can think of importers like, in Kuwait, in Russia, Italy, and mainly up here in the United States and North America. And that was my very first business that led for all of the experience to be able to move into building, the internet side of the business. So back to the story, it just kind of paved the way for expertise. And about 5 years ago, I had this aha moment of, I'm not in the flower industry. Even though I am a flower, I am in the flower industry. I run an e-commerce business that sells flowers on the internet. And that was an aha moment for me.
Wow. So, it's also it's innovative, right? Because not a lot of people sell flowers on the internet.
No. And a lot of people won't, just yesterday I was talking to a PE firm that they do sell over the internet, and just talking with the founder who, they come with a lot of money. The other important part about FiftyFlowers is when I say it was blood, sweat, and tears, I have not had one penny of investment. In fact, I started this 8-figure business in Ecuador with my Peace Corps savings bonds because my parents wanted me to move home to support me, or I'd have to do it on my own.
Right.
And so I cashed in. I used to think it was $5,400, but guess what? I just found 1,200 of them. So I cashed in $4,200. I bought a computer. I painted an office and put a lock on it and started my first business in the middle of Quito, Ecuador, just learning how to export, the whole business cycle. Like, who knew that people wouldn't pay their bills? My mama taught me that I pay my bills when I buy something. No. People in the flower industry don't. I don't know about in other industries, but that was a hard learning, hardcore. Mm-hmm.
But that's how you learn, right? And, Liza, it's a great, great story. We have entrepreneurs that are listening to us right now, and I go, wow, that,
yes.
It takes, from what I'm hearing, it takes courage. And we know it. It takes courage, it takes persistence, it takes vision, and it takes a belief in what you're doing, right? It takes that purpose to push you forward. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned throughout your path as an entrepreneur? And I'm sure you're still learning a lot, because we all learn. Doesn't matter how much, how successful we are in order to get to the next level. It's always a learning experience. But what's some of the things that you learned that, if you were able to talk to yourself, to the young self, you're still very young, but let's say in 2000, the beginning of 2000, what would you say to yourself in terms of an advice?
Okay, there are a couple of them. I can talk about this forever. I think one of the very most important that I would go back and say, number one, it's all about your people and your culture and what the expertise that they bring is not the only important part. It's also who they are innately. We have adopted Culture Index, and we're in our 2.5 years in Culture Index, and we're still learning about. Have you seen Culture Index? Have you adopted to it? Okay. So, you can be like, oh yeah, I'm a trailblazer. I'm a wide trailblazer with an L5. And I look at it and I have a CD stack, and it's like, oh, that's important. But you don't realize that until you hire somebody or you're talking to your coach And they explain to you that just because I have a CD stack, that makes a different, it can be a tweak in your personality that just won't fit with the culture of your company. So, number one is it really is all about your people and having the right people in the right seat, as we all know, Jim Collins called it, is one of my biggest mistakes. The second, which leads into that, is making easy decisions will make it harder down the road. So, what does that mean? Have
Yeah.
the hard, yeah, have the hard conversations. And, when you know an employee is not the right fit, talk it out right now and make that decision and make the hard decision, because then it will make it easy longer. When you avoid, you're only going to create more, more headache down the road.
That is
And then,
so true. Is I just have to stop here because I think it's a very important message, because it's so true. Because if you don't do that, then you just prolong the situation. You know that it's not
yep,
right. You get upset. The employee knows that as well, and they are not happy. And it doesn't lead anywhere. And it can be actually pretty dangerous because you can lose valuable customers. It's your reputation. There's a lot of things at stake.
you can lose your team dynamic,
Right.
which is one of the most crucial parts of your business. It's cancer, and you just want to cut it out as quick as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
we all know that, we hear it, but it's good to hear it again. And it's good to hear it from another entrepreneur as the
Yep.
successful thing and the successful advice. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
So what do you
And
do in order to keep your team together? Like, what are some of the things that you found successful in terms of building a strong culture?
well, number one is I talk about a safe space. In this business, I am not the smartest person in the room. And you'll rarely hear me say, oh, no, we're doing it my way or the highway, unless there are bills that need to be paid and I have to find money to pay it. That's when I'll be like, oh, yeah, I own this company and I have to do this. But, we have a very open communication policy here, which is part of our culture. We also, one of my core values is be awesome. And what does be awesome mean? It is the grace to have the space to be your best. And if you are, with my customer service team, I mean, we deal with do-it-yourself brides, and it's really challenging to get one complaint after another complaint and get yelled at. And, I have told every single one of our customer care reps, look, if you can't be awesome when you answer the phone and you need to go take a break, go walk around, go drink a Red Bull, go lay on the couch and take a nap. It's important that whatever we do, be awesome at it. Secondly, this is one of my favorite things that we do. I'm very passionate about longevity, and I'm very passionate about just your health. So, we do company. One year we went and worked out all the crew together here in Boise at a different gym, and everyone got to pick, what they wanted to do. It was kickboxing, it was spinning, it was a HIIT class. It was, we all got together and worked out. It's almost the whole thought leader of, a family that works out together stays together. It's a company that works out together, we stay together. And,
Yeah.
We have all different types when it comes to all different likes and all different types. Some people don't like to hike. I remember we did this one hike that it was really strenuous. And one of our gals actually made it to the top, and she didn't think she was going to. But as a team, we encouraged her and she did it. And that just created a great bond. Now, I do have I spend a lot of time on our culture. And I know I'm speaking about our Boise office. And this is where, it's challenging because we're bicultural, we're bilingual. And not everybody speaks English and not everybody speaks Spanish.
Right.
And every week on Wednesday, we have a 10-minute meeting, which always goes over because of the way that I open it. And I open the meeting with us meditating, with breathing. And I'm trying to introduce all of the breath techniques that I've been blessed to learn to the entire team. And I can't tell you how wonderful it is to see, a dev who really doesn't speak English, doing, the breathing exercises with us. And even though we're all remote, we all feel connected because of that moment. So
Absolutely.
there's another thing I do. I mean,
Yeah.
I can talk about team, and this
I
is
think
one
it's
of my,
amazing. This is great because you're doing it so well. So yeah, do share.
okay, this is one of my favorite ones. So I was sitting in church one day and they talked about how they have these little kids that you can adopt to help them just have their basic needs. So we now in Boise, we all have a little sister down in Ecuador. And why is that important? Because we get to write with them. We get to, we get to socialize with them to understand the Ecuadorian culture, who are our brother and sisters, our teammates down in Ecuador. And we have it up on the wall. So every time you walk through, you can see you can see your little sister.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Mm-hmm.
are, I think what I'm hearing is like, you have to be innovative. You have to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to believe that this is going to work, in terms of like creating all those. Sounds like fun, right? It's fun, it's innovative, it's thinking about the other person. And that's what you reflect outwards. Because if you need to deal with brides that do-it-yourself brides for the flowers
Mm-hmm.
or whomever you deal with, you have to have that compassion and you have to feel. So it starts internally. That's what it sounds to me.
Yeah, and here's another thing that is, another point around this of why the culture of that you're going to create with your business, it's yours. You get to do this. And I remember when I first started back a long time ago, and I'm completely different now. It was like, really, we have to go have fun together. Can't people just work? And yes, I did just say that because that's all I do is work back then. Now I fast forward and I look at it, we have our devs that have worked with us for 8 years. They're going back and they're getting, I love the developer's mind because it's constant education. And we have one particular that's studying in Europe. And today in our L10 EOS, we discussed how Google and Amazon are over in every one of these universities trying to hire these young minds. And, they're going to hire them. That's fine. And that's good because they'll go out, they'll get their experience. And when they get burnt because they're pushed so much, they come back to us. And that's happened to us over and over and over again. It's painful to see them go because, as we all know, you got to start from scratch and you got to learn, our tech stack. At the same time, now that they're coming back, it's full circle because they want to come back because of the culture that we're creating in our company.
Right. That's
Which,
beautiful.
it's important.
Absolutely. And I think that's what people realize, they value it, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
why you have the people that work for you.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. There is being an entrepreneur, there is ups, downs, there is um, a lot of things, right? So what is it that
Yes.
you find the most desirable about being a business owner?
Well, of course, the quintessential is, the freedom. However, I feel like we're more of a slave than we are a freedom. Um, because at the end of the day, I can't turn it off. As we were talking earlier, I was up at 3 o'clock this morning because, it's Mother's Day and you have to follow through. And if I have to say, what is the most, what I love most about being an entrepreneur is, yeah, I guess it is the freedom that I get to write, my future. I get to write my day by day. And
Absolutely.
it's it's a blessing and a curse because, I make the decision ultimately, and I'm so dedicated. Like, I show up to work every day because of the 65 people that depend on this, every box getting delivered. And I also show up because I want them to feel supported. And, I was taught, my mom and daddy taught me, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and lead like an example. And I am sure that we all have that entrepreneur guilt that, oh, I can't take the day off because no one else is able to take the day off.
You know how many times
And
I heard it from other entrepreneurs? It's so true.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true. Well, you know what I love about being an entrepreneur, and I'm sure all of you listening, we're unique. And if you don't get us, you're not, you don't, you never will. Because we're unique. I know I am. I can't speak for everybody else. However,
Absolutely. But you actually harness that uniqueness and made it something really good that can help others.
However, it's not been an easy journey. I can go back in high school and, I wanted to start a t-shirt business. I don't know if, we had t-shirt dresses that you would, you do the t-shirt and then you put the skirt on, you'd sew the skirt on, and it got picked up by, a boutique, and, everyone laughed at me. And so I didn't do it. But I look back and I think, wow, it's always been there. And people did and do look at me in a strange way. And at first it was uncomfortable, but now I enjoy the uncomfortableness and I don't let it affect me. I embrace it.
Great advice. Yeah, I was going to say, just that's the word that came to mind. Just embrace it, right? Because if you're not unique, if you don't do something different, then you can't really create something new, or you can't really succeed, because then you're just like everybody else.
Yeah. And, there's this story that I tell myself that, when you walk in a room and someone looks at you and you don't have on the outfit that you want to have on, it's the best that I can go. It's really the story I'm telling myself. And if I can just let go of that judgment, wow, what I can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's right. Because if you can do it with, imagine what you can do without. And that's
exactly.
a great advice. Great advice. Absolutely. So what are some of the things that were successful in your business that you implemented, that you felt like the biggest change to actually get you to the numbers where you're at today?
It was never say no. Any opportunity that came in, never say no, but at the same time, ask why 3 times. Because you can jump through and you can say, oh yeah, we're going to do that. But then understanding our boundaries of what we do best and focusing only on that is where we've been most successful. And I'll give you a great example. During the pandemic, I launched a subscription service. It's called FlowerFix, patent the name, great name, flowers fix everything. I thought it was going to be a sure success. There's no brand loyalty when it comes to subscriptions and flowers. And if I had VC money, probably could blow it up because, it's the same thing I do now, but packaged differently with a different twist on it. And that takes too much to do. And we put effort into it. And you know what? It's not what we do. It's not what my team knows what to do. So even though I've got all the operations and I have the product, it's the marketing that, we were lacking in. So learning to say, no, we're going to stop and we're just going to leave that and let it lie and come back and focus on what we do best that was a big moment. And it was a moment that I had to say, ego, it's okay. It's okay. You can fail forward.
Yeah, it's like being humble. Absolutely. It's the humility that
Mm-hmm.
you have to have. But it's also the ability to take on, like if you didn't try, you would never know. And then you would never know that it didn't work. You would have
Yeah.
always thought that, oh, there is an opportunity that I missed there. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
very important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This
We're
is
going to have failures. Go ahead. Sorry.
You have to have failed. Absolutely. It's not, and so long as you learn from them, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, my question is, how important do you think, why do you think processes and procedures are important for a business in order to succeed?
Clarity. And Brene Brown has something that clear is kind and unclear is unkind. And processes, just knowing, we went through a stage. I love to like put words around stages or like, this is our theme. And our theme was boring and predictable. We want everything in this business to be boring and predictable because there's so many variables that happen with a perishable product that is being flown around the world. Going back to what does FiftyFlowers do? We ship flowers direct from the farm to the doorstep. And it might be a blue, sunny sky where you are. However, in Ecuador, where we source about 23% of our product, there's a volcano that's erupting, spewing ash, and no flower and no plane can fly through that. So we have a lot of hidden surprises that we're never ever going to be able to plan for until it happens one time. And then we stop and we write an SOP for it. And I've done this for years. So the more that we can be boring and predictable on, the more we want to.
I love it. I love the boring and predictable because, it actually answers or it shows an aspect of, I hear a lot of people or many people that are creative, they go, I don't need SOPs, right? But look, you're super creative. The boring and predictable coupled with the creativity and the change and the unpredictability makes it predictable because you can have the boring and predictable in place, leaves you leaves you the space to be predictable, to be creative.
Exactly. Because it's you just know you're going to be stepping along the way and you know what step is going to happen next. And then you have this extra free time to where you're like, oh, okay, now my mind, instead of figuring out what a routine process, now I can like go play.
Exactly.
Which we do a lot with flowers, I will say. We do a lot.
I bet. I'm sure it's beautiful. It's just beautiful coming to work just because you are dealing with such a beautiful substance. So amazing.
I don't get to see flowers. I mean, every week we're doing photo shoots and it's typically a photo shoot. Like, we bring in one type of product and we cycle through it. We take the pictures. I do some videos for social. I don't get down to see the fields as much as I want. Uh, However, I do get down 2 to 3 times a year and it's my happy space. It really is my happy space.
I bet. So I have to ask
Yes.
you, what's your favorite flower?
Oh, it took me for years to to figure out that tulips really are my favorite flower. And a lot of it is because they align with and I'm going to just bring this up because it's late in the day, but they align with my core values. A tulip is, it's, the tulip comes from this ugly bulb and it gets planted. I don't know if you've ever seen tulip bulbs, but they travel in crates from, all over the world. They get planted. They're all clustered together. It's like a pack of rats that are just like put in the ground. And then all of a sudden, this beautiful flower comes out. And it's because, the belief of that bulb that's going to become a flower it's part of it, really is one of my core values. I'm going to go through all my core values because I have them very yeah. The second is tulips, they're unique and they have this shape, and some of them now look like the peony tulip, some of them have fringes on it, but you look at a tulip and you know that it's a tulip, but it's very unique in the flower world. And it's just like I am. I'm very bold in my life and I make a difference in the world, just like a tulip does in a flower arrangement. It brings just a special spice to that arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
And, tulips, they bring joy to people. They brighten up any room and they just make people smile. And that's one of my missions is I really try to create joy in life. I want to help people see the good in life because I feel like we as humans can just get stuck in looking at the not so good.
Right.
Um, Grace, tulips are also very graceful flowers. If you look at them in a field when it's, they sway back and forth with elegance. And I want to live with grace. I strive to be compassionate and always treat people with respect. And lastly, this is one of my favorites, and this is why I decided that a tulip is my favorite flower, is hashtag never know. It's one of my favorite hashtags. They devour water to stay alive. And I remember the first time I brought tulips home, it was about 17 years ago. And I know this because I have an 18-year-old. I was living in California and I went to visit a big tulip farm there and I brought them back and I was like, oh, I'm going to arrange tulips. And I cut them and I put them in a square vase and they were all perfect on the lip of the vase. And the next morning I woke up and they had grown. And tulips, like mini bulb flowers, you know what? They continue to grow through adversity.
Interesting.
And I align that with, this, I have this thirst for curiosity, for learning, and I'm always looking for ways to grow and improve myself. And just like that, those are my 5 core values that I live by every single day, just
Lisa,
like a
that's
tulip.
beautiful. And it's beautiful, just like a tulip. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love tulips as well. One of my favorite places to go in the spring is in Oregon, in Woodburn. There's
Oh, it's so
tulip.
beautiful.
It's just
It's so
beautiful,
beautiful.
beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful. All the colors. I mean, I love the colors. That's one thing about the tulip.
Mm-hmm.
Is vivid, beautiful colors. And it's just like a
Mm-hmm.
painting. It's just so beautiful.
And you look at it and you're like, this is like it came from this ugly bulb. Who invented that bulb? And I don't know if you know the story of tulips too, back in, the old time. It's a great story.
Tell me.
And it's about entrepreneurs. They were very rare and they were also traded. And entrepreneurs, it was like the stock market of tulips back
Mm,
in a long, long time ago. I can't remember the dates, but it's they've been around forever. And now the new breeds of tulips, oh, I mean, they are amazing. I mean,
wow.
when I say amazing, they're just, I'll send you some pictures of some of the Dutch tulips that are out and about on the marketplace that you'd be like, yeah, I want those every day in my house.
Sounds great. I would love to see that. Absolutely. Wow. Lisa, this has been incredible. I mean, your story, who you are, it is definitely, yeah, there is, it's like flowers, it's beautiful. I love that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So if people want
I
to know
feel
more about you, where should they go?
Well, I am on LinkedIn, Liza Roeser. My personal brand is the Flower CEO. And once again, hashtag never know, but it's on pause because there's just too much to do right now to really, I'll LinkedIn once, I'll post once a week on it. I'm not that active as I would like to be. However, you can find me on LinkedIn or you
Good.
can email me, Lisa
And
at
50Flowers. Yeah.
50flowers.com. Mm-hmm.
There you go. And then you can go to 50Flowers and Mother's Day is coming up. Well, I mean, this podcast is going to get out whenever it's get out. And we want
Sure.
to do it as an evergreen content, but there is always going to be Mother's Day, whether this one or the next one or whatever the occasion is, and weddings and etc. And yeah,
There's
check out,
always a reason for flowers.
there's
Always a reason
always,
for flowers.
absolutely. And I think flowers are the thing that really lift your spirit, that it's hard to find somebody that doesn't like flowers.
Hmm. Very true.
Absolutely.
Very true.
So
Well,
thank you
thank you
also
so
but
much.
before we end off the podcast, we have
Okay.
to thank David Nielsen, who really we
Oh,
got
yes.
introduced by David from
Yes.
Dogsta. So I did a great interview with him, and I'm going to include it in the show notes. And we met together actually in a conference that his company Doxa put together. So so thank you, David, for this amazing connection.
Thank you, David. Yes, thank you so much for everything, David, Doxa, you. It's just, it's these connections that really make entrepreneurship fun. And it creates our tribe. We need to stick together.
It does, absolutely. And our listeners probably can relate to that, and I agree. So that's why reach out, ask questions, get inspired. And again, thank you so much, Liza.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.